Hello and welcome to Module 10 of SMART Board training. This module is all about getting your students to use a device to enter some kind of response to a prompt that you've given them and have Smart Notebook receive that and either display the results or compile the results or display the students' answers on the screen. Smart Notebook has really two systems for doing this that work in different ways. A smart response is kind of like a quiz where you set up different types of questions and the students respond to those questions, and then it kind of compiles the results for you to see. The other is Shout It Out, which basically just takes students' ideas and pops them up on the screen. So maybe a little less formal than Smart Response, but it's kind of a way to get students' ideas to be shared with the whole class. So let's take a look at the specific learning targets. We're in Smart Notebook, so in Smart Notebook I can create a Smart Response activity that allows my students to use a device to enter responses to various types of questions. I can also import questions from an existing Word document and then turn them into a Smart Response assessment. This is kind of a time saver. If you've already got questions in a Word document or you just find it easier to use Word to type out questions, you can import that into Smart and it'll turn it into a Smart Response activity. You can use Smart Response to lead an assessment activity in my class, so that's basically taking what you've done here and actually doing it in class with your students. I can add an instant question for a quick on-the-fly response from students. This is where you haven't really planned for it, but you kind of get an idea to poll the class, and there's a way to do an instant question that's just a couple steps that'll get the students responding with their devices. And then I can analyze results from Smart Response questions. So Smart gives a few different ways to see how the students responded, and you can analyze those results. So kind of changing gears, but still in the same category of getting the students to enter information into their device and have it come through Smart Notebook, is I can set up a Shout It Out activity that will allow students to contribute text and images that will appear on the screen, and that's just appearing on that canvas of a Smart Notebook page. I can also use Shout It Out to lead an idea sharing activity in my class, and I can manipulate input from my students on my Smart Board in order to emphasize or sort their ideas. It's kind of neat when they enter their input, it pops up on the page of Smart Notebook, and then of course it becomes an object that you can manipulate, sort, emphasize to show off good ideas and to do other types of activities. Let's get started. All right, let's first see how to put together a Smart Response activity that will eventually allow your students to connect to it and answer questions that you pose on the Smart Board. So we want to go down to this 6th tab down. It kind of looks like an old cell phone or a calculator. It's meant to represent one of those clicker devices. But the neat thing with the latest version of Smart is you don't actually need that hardware, the clickers, because students can use any device. It could be a phone or a tablet or a laptop. Now, if you're interested in those clickers, we do have 2 sets of them in the library, and they're available to check out. So definitely know that that's an option too. So as I click on that 6th tab, right away I see that this page has no Smart Response content, which makes sense. That's just my learning target page. So I can start a title page or just start a question. Now, the title page serves as the beginning of a series of questions. So if you want to ask multiple questions and then actually get results to multiple questions like kind of grouped together, you'll want to add a title page. If it's just one question, well then you can just insert a question. So let's just see what happens if I just start with that one, inserting a question. So it asks me what type of question I would like to insert. Yes or no, multiple choice. There's one where you ask it has to be a number, fraction, or decimal in the answer. True, false, multiple answer, that would be where more than one answer is okay to select, or just text, where they literally type in a word for the answer. So let's start off by just trying a multiple choice one. So I'll click that and then next. And then here's where I can type my question. Now you'll see me running over to the keyboard to do this. You might want to do this whole thing just sitting at your keyboard at your desk instead of doing it at the board. Of course, when you're teaching, it's nice to be up here. But for the setup, it's probably easier to do all on your computer. So let's see, if I'm doing multiple choice, I don't know if I can type. So I can add standards or other tags if I'm feeling very thorough, but I'm going to go ahead and go to next, and then just type in my multiple responses. Now I've got 5, I can make that as many as I want. Let's change that to 4 and we watch one of the fields disappear. Okay. Now up here I see a Likert scale. That's for predetermined types of scales where you could do agreement, like strongly agree, all the way down to completely disagree. The frequency, a lot versus a little, and so on. So those are like some predisposed multiple choices that I could add in there. Since I've got my own custom ones, I'll leave that alone. So uncheck that and stick with those 4 that I've entered in. And then the correct answer, which is of course A. It's not an opinion question, so there is right and wrong here. If I did this as an opinion question, it would just give the results but not say what's right and what's wrong. So as I hit finish, I should see a whole new page be created here. As I hide that tab, we can see that yes indeed a new page has been created, and now I've got this question being posed. Now I need to start the question. So let's grab some devices to use as example student devices and get the question started and see how it looks once answers are entered into it. All right, so we're on the page. We're acting as if I am a teacher with a room full of students ready to pose this question. So you let the students know this is going to be a response that they enter into their devices, and we'll see the results. So as a teacher, I want to go back to this 6th tab here. I'm going to jump right past this properties little tab here. That's to edit the points, and if I had a second thought of what the answer actually was, I could click show where it says answer key and actually edit the answer and add tags and add notes, but you definitely don't want to do that in front of a class because it says the answer. So I'm going to go ahead and hide that and go to progress. Now I'm going to click start this question now, and once I do, it'll give directions to the students to go to response.smarttech.com and to enter in this assessment ID. So I have 3 different devices here to show off what that looks like. So that's on a phone, going to response.smarttech.com. I've also done it on a tablet. Looks very similar. So there it is. But students could also use their laptops. So that's what going to that page on a laptop would look like. So I'm at the point where I need to enter that assessment ID in all 3 of these devices. Notice it gave me another field for student ID. That's where I could enter my name, or if you've assigned students each a number to keep track of results that way. For now, I'm going to skip it. It's not required. It does work without that being entered in, but that is a way to add accountability to what your students are doing. So 331, I'll go ahead and sign into all 3 of these. Again, just entering 866331 into the assessment ID field. And then on the laptop, 866331. Okay, so pretty easy enough. Now, my screens look like this. So that's on a phone, that's on a tablet, and then the laptop will look like this. So it's kind of neat. It rewrites the question on the screen for the student and allows them to click an answer. So I'll do 2 of them answering T.C. Robertson and 1 of them answering AC, just to see how that ends up showing as a result. Okay, so gives me 1 more chance to submit after confirming the answer. Okay, and now, my students would be done. And so, and this can go away at any point. If you ever want it back, it's that little button right there. A QR code, if you get all your kids to download a QR code reader, they could shine their camera at that and it would go right to the web address there. So that is another option. But let's stop this question. So we can see it's been going on for 2 minutes. Who isn't finished, I can show that. It says all students have finished because it registered the 3 devices and all 3 devices have entered. I can see a preview of the results, and that's kind of real time. It will change as more answers come in. Of course, we've only got 3, so we see the 66% versus 33%. I'm going to go ahead and hit stop this question now. And it's got to think about it for a little bit. Let me make sure I got it. But then we'll go from there. And now the question is stopped. Our results are sitting here as a pie chart. I can also do a bar chart if I prefer that. Of course, we see A has got 2 votes, B has got 1. It does show me the correct answer is A, and that 2 out of the 3 passed the question. I can also insert these charts into notebooks. So whether it's the pie or the graph, I can click that little insert and it'll show right on the same page as the question. And I could always start the question now, and that would just be another run of it, maybe for next class. Of course, for next class, you probably want to get rid of this thing, and then the question will be like this, ready to go to say start this question now. It will warn me about clearing the results if I start it again, and of course that would be fine. So here we see it happening all over again. And now let's see how to create a multi-question assessment. This question was just one, all on its own. Remember, we got there by adding a new page, going to that 6th tab down, and just doing a question. Well, this time I'm going to do a title page. And what a title page does is sets up a group of questions. Once kids log in with that ID, they can do multiple questions instead of just one, and they don't have to keep entering that ID. So all of this is just to show on the title page. None of it is actually required except the first 2. Well, and this one, calling it one thing or another doesn't actually change the nature of it. Assessment is fine, quiz is what it started as. It does require a title, so I'll just do example. These left blank are fine. They give you an example. It could be your subject, but quicker is just to get it and maybe make that something to clue your students into an assessment's about to happen. But I definitely see it more as formative assessment. Just getting a read on their understanding. So we kind of follow these directions here. This assessment has no questions in it, well, because we haven't added any. So to add a question to the next page, that's what I want to do by hitting this blue link here. So then it gives me the options we've seen before, types of questions. Let's just do a yes or no. Here's where I'll ask my question. Let's see. Okay, of course there's no standards that I want to add to that, so I'll just hit next. This is definitely an opinion question, so there's not a right or wrong answer. And let's see, I could provide an explanation, and that could be printed on the assessment results. But let's just type that to see where that pops up later. Okay, so I'll finish that. There it is. I could start the assessment, and that would be in progress and start, but I want to keep adding to this series of assessments. So the way I do that is just start a new blank page, go back to my response tab, and back to properties, and then add a question to this page. And the program will just realize that there's a title page, and then 2 are in a row. We'll do 3 just for this example total, and then it will keep that in a group. Okay, so let's just do a number example. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so I'll hit next there. This would not be an opinion question. I believe the correct answer, oh, well, I've got to type it first, is 6. And then, so it's not an opinion question, that disappears. Okay, so I'm going to put that just so we can see where that ends up popping up. I'm going to do one more. So add a question to this page. Let's see, let's make it true or false. Okay. And of course that is true. Explanation is, let's see. Okay. So finish. All right, so if I just arrow back, and you can see it has numbered them. That happen automatically. So I have these 3 questions, and then a title page that serves as grouping them all together. So let's just play this out. I will go to the 6th tab, go to progress, and start the assessment now. Get the devices ready, and we'll see how it works. Now, before I start the example assessment, I did want to go back to the title page and show off a couple different options that definitely change the way it works. Down here, it asks, do I want to allow all students to answer either all questions at their own pace or the currently displayed question only? And that's definitely if you want to just do one and then discuss it and everyone's kind of at the same place, and then go to the next page, and then the question's accessible to students, and then they answer, and then a discussion is made. Or maybe you just want them all to do all the questions at their own pace and then discuss at the end. So that's really just depending on how your lesson looks. Also, this feedback, it says show the results to students. So that's actually on their devices, and that you can do after you stop collecting responses, after all questions are answered, after each question is answered, or don't show the students their grades, and they won't be able to see it on their device. So again, just kind of depending on how your lesson is flowing, these options exist. And then also a checkbox to remember names or not, and they call that a privacy thing, because the kids can put their own name in there, but that's where it says the student ID. So I can start this assessment now. From here, I can also start this assessment like we did before from that little progress. So I'll go ahead and hit that, and that's where we'll get the window that tells us where to go and what number to put in. So I'll go ahead and grab my 3 devices and get, where are we? Oh, sometimes I've noticed it doesn't pop up, and that's usually after you've done it once. It's right here to get that box to come back up. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the 3 devices and enter that number in, and we'll do the assessment, see how it works. Okay, so I've started the assessment. I went ahead and finished it on the phone and the tablet, but I wanted to show on the laptop just the way the grouping of questions differs. Everything looks pretty much the same, except notice that 1 of 3 there. So without having to put the number back in, I'll just be able to go through those 3 questions. And we left the setting on let the students just run through all the questions without having a pause between them. Remember, there was that other method to not let the students answer the question until you go on to the next slide. But as I finish up on this laptop, let's see, I enter in my answers to the 3 questions. And then I see all 3 of the questions in a list with the answers I provided, and then I will just submit. Okay, so it says answers submitted. Please wait your results. That's where I'll go back to my response tab. Notice there's a little green circle saying that I have an assessment going on right now. So I'll go ahead and stop this assessment. It does show me results for each question. So we'll wait while it says collecting results. But it looks like all 3 students ate breakfast this morning. And remember, I can show the other kind of chart and also insert that chart into Notebook to show it off. I can go to the next one. Looks like 66% answered 6 schools, and then 33%, so 1 student answered 5 schools. There's a little key down there that you can show off. And then the next screen looks like 100% think that T.C. Robertson rocks. So that is that. There are some tools to analyze all 3. to me they're not, let's see, let me go back to here and we see results here. This is the graphic that they show. This might be a little more telling where it gives the details of each student. And remember, you could have those be names instead of just anonymous. And the ones they got, an opinion question just counts as 100%, but anyone they got wrong factors into their percentage there. So that was a grouping of questions that we made. Now, to save a little time, we're going to see how to just take a Word document full of questions and import them into a SMART response activity. Okay, so here I have an assessment created in Microsoft Word that I would like to import into SMART Notebook. Now, I tried to mix up the types of questions, got a couple multiple choice. I have an open-ended question, a yes or no, and a true-false. We'll see it happen. I ran through this a couple times with different options, and the big downside to this, and it seems like a bug, and hopefully they'll figure out how to fix it, is the open-ended question. It did give a text box on my device that I could type an answer to, but it was restricting it to a number, and I tried multiple types of question words and just tried to mix it up, and all of them that I tried, it expected a number for the answer, and I didn't find a setting, or I did some research, didn't find any way around that. So that's the big downside. Let me just throw that out to begin with. The multiple choice worked fine. The yes or no is the true false. It's just that open-ended questions, for whatever reason, imported as expecting a number as the answer, and it restricted to the point where it wouldn't let me enter in anything but a number. So it works great for an open-ended number, but didn't for actually entering letters, text. So I've got my assessment made. I do want to close it and save it, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. I had already saved it, so it didn't ask me. I know where I saved it. I saved it on the desktop for this example. And then I'll go down. I've got SMART Notebook running already. I'm going to go down to the Assessment tab. And here's where I'll use this link that says Import Questions from a File. So as I tap that, I do want to select Microsoft Word. Now, any of these, if you're familiar with, you can use those as well. But for this example, you will use Microsoft Word. It's on my desktop. I'm not seeing it. This is another little caveat to be aware of. It's looking for a .doc. Well, there are two types of Word documents, .doc and .docx. .docx is the newer type, so if it's something that you created on your computer, it most likely, pretty much guaranteed to be saved as a .docx. So as I typed that, then my file became viewable. So let me just either double click that or open that. It will think about it for a while. And keep in mind, again, you do need to make sure that Word document is closed, saved and closed before you do this, or it will not work. It'll give you some kind of error message. Okay, so import successfully completed. I can see test assessment, I have 5 of 5. It just jumped to the 5th question, so we'll just backtrack. There's the 4th one, the 3rd one, the 2nd one, and the 1st one. So we can see it did get the multiple choice right. It looks great for how was your weekend, but as a student, if I tried to answer anything but a number, it will not work. So that's the big drawback to importing questions. Got the yes or no though, and got the true or false. And so remember, if I want to start this assessment, I'll go into the tab. I can go to progress, I can start it. If I click test assessment, it'll just bring me back to that title page that was automatically made, and realize it was made with the name being the name of my Word document. So that's where that came from. So yeah, I can start this assessment now. I'll go ahead and do it. It'll give me the window that tells kids to go to that website and then to enter that assessment ID, and they can go from there. And one more thing about importing assessment items from a Word document. SMART Notebook doesn't know what the right answer is, so you do have to set the right answer for any questions that aren't opinion questions. That's what SMART does by default, just makes everyone an opinion, so it does let it work without taking this step. But if you've actually got right or wrong answers to your questions, you'll want to take this last step. There are 2 ways to do it. I'll show you the slower way first, in my opinion, would be to go to each individual question and show that answer key. And so that's not too bad. The only downside is, I can't really see my question, so I kind of have to hide the tab and then see, okay, it's C there, so then I can open the tab back up and hit C, and then next, and just do that for each question again. Look at the question, oh, it's A, so then go back and tap A and confirm it's there, and then go on to the next one. For me, it's easier to go to response up here, and then the fourth menu item down, set all answers. And this just gives me one place to see all my questions and answers and to set them. So it did hang on to the two I already did, C for number 1 and A for number 2. Number 3, this has got that bug in it where even though it's obvious for us as humans to see that was a question where a text, a letters answer would be appropriate, it's wanting a numeric response. So I would have to type in some number there. And if anybody can figure out how to change that to a letters response, I would love to know. I mean, of course, we could delete the whole question and add a new one in manually, and that would work, but of course that would take more time. Then it's my 3 and 4, my yes or no, and my true, false. Of course, these happen to be opinion questions, but if they weren't, I could set them here. And then once you're done, you click done, and then they all have their answers in there. And now let's see how to just throw out as quick as you possibly can an instant response question. And this would be for those moments that you didn't have it planned, but you just quick want to poll your students and make it happen as fast as possible with Smart Notebook. Well, we are going to go down to that 6th tab, and this time we're in this area here where I can ask a question now. It can be a true, false, a yes or no, multiple choice with A, B, C, or D, an instant number or instant text, meaning a number is required for an answer or letters are required for an answer, like a word or words answer. And as soon as I tap one of these, it just starts. So if I hit instant number, it will ask me if I want to put it on this page or make it a new page. This is a blank page now, so this page will be fine. And if I always wanted to do that, to skip this step, I could check that box there, but I'm going to leave it unchecked for now for this example, and we could go ahead and put it on this page. You can see it's already preparing the assessment. As soon as it does, it'll toss out the number that students enter, and it's rolling. So realize we won't see, once I hide this stuff, we don't see the actual question. That would just have to come verbally from the teacher, but it is, ready and waiting for answers to start compiling in there as students enter them through their devices. So you can always pop that number back up. Remember, with that little box there, but if the students were there entering the answer in the devices, it would just start populating as we speak. And now let's take a look at another type of activity called Shout It Out. And it's similar to Smart Response in that it asks the students to put input into a device and it sends it to Smart Notebook. But instead of just compiling the results and reporting them, this will actually take the students' responses and put them up on the screen. There's an option to just have them pop up randomly, and there's an option to divide the board up into categories, and the student can put in an answer and then tell it which category to send it to. So let's see where to go to get to that. It is here, the little top hat with some magic coming out of the top. We've seen it before. Because it's this lesson activity builder along the same lines as a lot of stuff found in the gallery, these interactive activities like the sorting activity, there was a matching activity and a ranking activity and a fill in the blank activity. But we did not take a look at the Shout It Out activity, the second one down here. So the description they give, students use a web browser on their mobile devices, that could be their phone or a tablet or a laptop computer, to connect to an activity and then contribute words or even images, and we'll see how to do that too. But to get it started, you just tap on Add This Activity. Here's where you can decide, do you want the responses to come in randomly or do you want them to be categorized? So we'll show off both. Let's start off with randomly. Poster board is the only theme available there. Here's where I can decide if I want the students to enter text or images. So I'll leave it on text for now. Maximum contributions per device, that's how many times the students can enter in a particular activity. And then display contributor names. So that's a little anonymity there, on or off. Next, you can choose all these widgets. You can add a timer, a buzzer, a dice, spinning wheel, hat pick. So worth exploring to see if they suit you. But yeah, just some extra bells and whistles, kind of gamifying the activity there. So as I click finish, we'll watch it think for a second and kind of create the poster board, the canvas on which the responses will come in. But it says this activity hasn't started yet. I'm going to need to press that green button, start activity. It'll think, sometimes longer than others, and then instruct students to go to that classlab.com address and then enter that ID. So I'll grab a few devices, get those set up so we can see what it looks like when students contribute on this activity. Okay, so I have a couple devices with that address plugged into the browser and that ID plugged in. Let me show you what that looks like on the student end. So that's the site. I've got the number. I've added a name. So join this activity. And then it just gives me a text box in which to write a response. So imagine I said something like, what comes to mind when I mention the topic volcanoes? And then students could enter things like that. Or I could enter, let's see, okay, and each time I submit a response to the device, it tells me how many I have left. Like, we set it at 3, so of course it says I have 2 left. And so as those things come in, I can move them all around. So that's about all I can do with them except delete them if there was a reason to delete one of them. But as you can see, they're kind of color coded with the contributor, and I could just move them around and categorize them if I wanted to, or bring ones to the top to discuss. But you can imagine a class full of students, and ideas kind of start popping up, and you have the ability to point them out and categorize them and discuss them. All right, this time let's do a shout it out activity that has different categories for students to enter things into. So I will start a new page here and go back to my top hat, the lesson activity builder, where I will add this activity under shout it out. This time I'll leave it on categorized. And let's see, you can do 4 total categories. Let's just do something real easy for an example. And although this time I'm going to have the input be images, so we'll see how that works. We can leave it, well, let's for difference see what it looks like to display contributors' names. Again, the option to gamify my activity, but we'll skip over that for now. And as I click finish, that's where it, now we see 2 different canvases, 2 different categories here. As I hit start activity. All right, so, now this I'll leave up because you might run into this too. I guess I never technically closed the last activity, but it's okay. I can go ahead and cancel the last one, start this one, and that won't be a big deal. So there's my ID number. I'll go and get my devices ready, and then we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so it was kind of neat the way it paused the last activity and started this one. Because on my device I didn't have to re-enter that number. That happens to be the same number of the first activity I started, so that's kind of a time saver there. Notice the difference though with the image being an option. Now I can go to, as a student, go to select an image, and I had already found one on Google Images, of course, and there it is on the desktop, so I'll just double click that. And so it enters it, and then I do want to select a category. So I'll select the category of plants, of course. Oh, are we thinking about it? Oh, no, we're up here. Let's see, plants, and then I can send it. And so let's see what it looks like on this end. Oh, nothing yet, nothing yet. Oh, one thing to note, I can tap that little icon here to get rid of that information. Well, there it is. So there's my plant submission on this tablet here. I've got another submission. Let's see. Okay, so let's see what it looks like on a tablet. Obviously, that's an animal. And send. Thinks about it. And then we should see it pop up. Okay, and there we go. So you can imagine again, a class full of students populating this with various submissions. Again, could be a picture or could be just a word submitted. And that does wrap up Module 10 of Smart Board training. As always, get in touch with me for any extra clarification, to meet with me one-on-one. For any question, Smart Board, any kind of educational technology related stuff, just let me know and I'd be happy to work with you.